News at Noon starts right now.
Right now in Uvalde, the families of 19 of the Robb Elementary School shooting victims set to hold a press conference. Not quite clear at this moment what they're planning to talk about, though.
But that press conference will be live streamed on KSAT.com, and we do have a crew there, and we will be bringing you more information as soon as we get it.
New at noon, the mother of a 5-year-old who was beaten to death in 2021, giving the events leading up to his death, but also getting grilled by her ex-boyfriend's attorneys, too. Nicole Aguilar's testimony against Daniel Garcia he's accused of causing the death of her son, Dominic Aguilar Acevedo, is in return for a plea deal. Eric Hernandez following this trial and is joining us live from outside the courtroom. Erica, what has Nicole Aguilar's demeanor been like in court?
Well, Ursula, she's been pretty calm for the most part. We did see a little emotion today, but even as the defense questioned her today and accusing her of being the ones to cause the injuries to Dominic. Now, Dominic allegedly died at the hands of Daniel Garcia back in July 2021, and his remains found a month later in Colorado. Defense attorney Michael Gross first pointed out all the time she had lied to authorities, which she didn't deny, and said she was in denial about what happened. He also repeatedly asked her if she was the one who abused Dominic. Here is some of that back and forth.
It took me a while to come to terms with everything that happened, and I still loved him at that time.
And that's because Daniel did not inflict these injuries on Dominic, did he?
That's not true. I did mess up as a parent.
No, it's because you inflicted those injuries on Dominic and you're trying to blame Daniel Garcia, aren't you?
No, that's not true.
Now, there is a chance Aguilar is called back to the stand at some point during this trial. She did take a plea deal in exchange for her testimony. Now, as for other witnesses who are expected, right now her mother, Shirley Acevedo, is on the stand. She is the one who notified authorities about her missing grandson. And then later this afternoon, we are expected to hear from Daniel's young daughter. Now, we are live streaming this trial. You can watch on KSAT.com, KSAT Plus, and KSAT YouTube's page. Live at the Cadena Reeves Justice Center, Erica Hernandez, KSAT 12 News.
Thank you, Erica. The two children who were the subject of an Amber Alert out of South Texas this morning have been found. They're safe here in San Antonio. However, now police are trying to find a man officers say was involved in the Amber Alert. San Antonio police found the 4- and 5-year-old boys at an apartment on Carriage Drive, not far from Loop 410 in Starcrest. The siblings were named in an Amber Alert from Yorktown in DeWitt County early this morning, and it said that they had been taken by a man and were believed to be in danger. Police say it appears he dropped off the children with relatives here in town.
So they immediately called police, and we're out here. We came out here and we were able to verify that the kids are here. They're healthy. They're in good condition. They're tired, so they're sleeping right now, but they don't appear to be injured.
Police still looking for the man involved in the Amber Alert, but they say they did find his car at a nearby apartment complex.
Let's take a look outside with live cam. It is a cool 85 degrees out there. No, I'm not going to call it warm and dry. Let's just put it that way.
Not warm and dry. This afternoon, I'll tell you what, how about hot and humid? Those are going to be the two ways to describe the remainder of this Wednesday and really all the way through the remainder of the week and into the upcoming Memorial Day weekend. High pressure is still in control, which means elevated temperatures, unseasonably hot for this time of year, are still in the forecast. Right now, upper 80s, low 90s in and around the San Antonio area. Yes, we have the humidity in place. Morning cloud cover, though, starting to break up just a little bit more. Slightly cooler up into the hill country where that cloud cover is really still hanging on near 80 degrees near Bernie as well as Kerrville. Here's the thing. Into this afternoon, more peaks of sunshine expected. Temperatures soaring back into the upper 90s. Yesterday, our high was 97. We're going to be very close to that again later on this afternoon. Feeling like the triple digits when you factor in all of that moisture. And it's a low chance, but we will monitor for an isolated storm, especially across the hill country and out west near the Rio Grande. Stepping out for evening plans, still hot and humid there as well. So looking ahead, temperatures still toasty. In fact, nearing our first 100-degree day so far this year. currently in the forecast this weekend. Also dealing with a little bit of haze out there in the sky thanks to smoke from agricultural burning in Mexico passing through. And again, rain chances pretty minimal, very isolated over the next few days. So we're going to time it all out, get you those details coming up a little bit later on.
Thank you, Mia. Happening today, should horse-drawn carriages hoof it out of downtown or even out of the whole city? A proposed ban is on the Transportation Advisory Board's agenda later on this afternoon. Local carriage companies say they do plan to be at that meeting. Ban supporters have cited safety on crowded downtown streets as well as animal welfare issues. The idea, though, won't go before a city council committee until at least next month, and it's unclear when that idea might be up for a vote, if it ever is.
Victor Wembanyama setting another rookie record, and he's got the hardware to show for it.
Local schools helping some students add some high-tech skills to their resumes before they graduate. How this could help them snag some jobs in growing industries.
You were convicted of sexual assault. What are you doing at these scenes with law enforcement?
A convicted sex offender allowed into a city park as deputies search for a missing woman and her son. Coming up at 6 o'clock today, KSAT investigates the man's criminal history and why he was given access.
A commercial drone program preparing
Look
some
out.
middle and high school students, I'm getting dizzy, for high wages and in-demand jobs.
Tiffany Huertas takes us to South San High School, where students are soaring to success.
You have to check the drone, you have to check the controller, you have to check the environment.
There's a checklist these high school students must go through before flying this drone.
Did you ever think you were going to be flying drones in high school?
No, ma'am. I didn't think I was.
For months, South San High School students have been learning the basics about drones. Senior Jesus Munoz is one of the students that earned his drone pilot license and has big plans for the future.
Well, I want to have a little side job, a little side hustle, as you can say, because since I am going to the Navy, it's gonna be hard to have a set, like a footprint in some specific place. So I want to have a little website wherever I go to have something.
Munoz practices out here.
They ask you 3 questions like, are you qualified? And do you take full responsibility of what happened?
Capturing footage of the football team practicing. These students are in Michael Sorola's class.
We're so close to Port San Antonio and Lackland and stuff, and they see that all the day. But you know, that's other people that do that. That's the smart people, or I couldn't be an aircraft mechanic or a pilot or anything like that. Doing this and going through that whole process has opened their eyes to a lot of the different things they could do in aerospace.
Before teaching this course, Sorola also had to get his license. This commercial drone program was brought to the school by the D. Howard Foundation.
Well, the D. Howard Foundation's mission, quite frankly, has always been to help bring opportunities to our local youth for careers in aerospace, and not just today, but into the future.
Tyler Schrader, who is chairman of the D. Howard Foundation and works at Boeing, says this program is in 12 schools across 8 school districts.
As part of this program, not only are they earning a Part 107 license, which allows them to commercially operate a drone, which there's a whole list of benefits that come with that, including the ability to go commercially earn money while using that drone, but it also exposes them to a whole world of unmanned aerial systems and the regulation that comes with that.
With the drone industry booming, this program is providing many opportunities to local students.
It's a great experience to have. Something like this to know is also great to have, especially because more and more the world is becoming more technological and lots of things are advancing, and this kind of thing is revolutionary. To know something like this and expand your knowledge on different types of technologies, I feel like is amazing.
Tiffany Huertas, KSAT 12 News.
So does the heat enhance the operation of a drone, or does it hinder the operation of a drone?
As long as it doesn't overheat the drone.
Yeah.
That would be my concern.
There you go.
I was thinking about the humidity and the internal workings.
There you go.
Getting gummed
We
up.
should launch a study on it. Maybe we could go back and ask
Yeah.
them weather effects on drone operation.
There you go.
There you go. Yep, hot and humid today and over the next several days with very small rain chances. Most of us are going to miss out, unfortunately, because we definitely could use it. The aquifer is down almost a foot today, 633.3 this day's reading. As we look ahead to our pollen count, again, mold still in the moderate category, not as high as where they were yesterday, but they are still moderate. Grass is present too, but it is low. So yes, a lot to talk about still when it comes to that heat. We'll get you all those details after this.
Happening right now, a major announcement from the 19 families of the Uvalde school shooting.
They're together holding a press conference about suing the city of Uvalde, and we're going to join right now. I believe a lawyer is speaking.
The best of the best. As far as the state of Texas is concerned, it sounds like their position is, you're on your own. You're on your own. It's not like the city had nothing set up to deal with a mass shooting at a school. School shootings are so foreseeable in this country, aren't they? They had drills, they had officers who had some training, they had equipment, they just didn't have enough. The burden of protecting children in schools in this country for towns like Uvalde is overwhelming, and it's an impossible burden to meet, even in the best of circumstances. That's how grave this threat is. So how can the state provide such little help and at the same time open the gun barracks to kids like 18-year-old kids and allow them to get AR-15s at the same time? If you want it, that's fine. That's a decision that every state has to make. And at the same time, where's the burden? Where's the burden lying? I mean, you know what? This has done terrible things to this community in addition to these families. So until that real root cause of what's going on is addressed, until the corporate enablers are dealt with who enable this culture and this epidemic, and until those making money off of this start to clean up their act, the best we're going to ever do is a perfectly performed law enforcement response, a Band-Aid that may importantly save lives, but is only the last failure in a long line of them for the children in this country. And it is too late for the children of these families. What do you do in the aftermath of something like this? There's no playbook for that. There's no playbook for the emotions. There's no playbook for the strain. There's no playbook for how a community deals. And that's why I think, and these families know, there have been some massive, massive problems trying to reconcile and reckon with what happened almost 2 years ago. People are in a state of shock. And the town has, with its threadbare budget, has to deal with it. And they have not dealt with it well. The city has not dealt with this well. No, in terms of the accountability, no discipline of any police officers, no demotions, no nothing. Only an absolution. Basically, the city has said, and not alone in saying this, our officers did nothing wrong. If their officers did nothing wrong, and the rest of the 376 officers did nothing wrong, then what does that say about the threat? 376 officers doing their job and unable to protect these children for 77 minutes. Maybe it just turns out that when you have good guys with guns, it's not that easy to take out a kid with an AR-15. But I mean, because they all did their jobs. So what does that tell you about the attitude of state and federal governments and local governments? You're really on your own. But of all the agencies we've talked about, there is the other side of this city, and it is this city is a good city. I never heard of Uvalde, being from Connecticut, just like you guys never heard of Sandy Hook until the shooting. And that's, of course, mass shootings put cities and townships on the map for the rest of the country that they've never heard of. This is a great place. I can see community here, and I've seen people shake hands and say hi. Up near New York, people don't do that. They greet you in another way. But this is really a genuinely good community. And I guess it's called a city, but to me it looks like a small town. And it's been, in a way, a tale of two cities in terms of their response. If you wrapped up the part of their response, I'm talking about not the law enforcement response, I'm talking about what the city has done to hold those accountable. If you wrap that part up, yeah, it couldn't have been handled in a worse way. No transparency, no clarity, no action. And it's difficult in this city, I hear, because it's so small, to run into people in the street, police officers, who must be living with, let's be honest, these officers, many of these officers, if not all, must be living with tremendous guilt and anxiety and trauma. But I've heard it's difficult in a community like this. So that's on the one side. But let's talk about the other side, what this city has done. This city has done something, I would say, that was actually kind of remarkable in the modern era of defensiveness. They approached us, the community of Uvalde approached these families. They said, what can we do? What can we do? We don't have money. We don't have much money. We don't have money of our own. We have a light budget. We can't take care of all your needs. We can't take care of the surgeries he may need. We can't take care of the trauma, of the therapy. We can't do that. We just don't have enough money. But what else can we do? They said, we have some insurance money. You can have all the insurance money. But we don't have a lot of that either. And of course, the last thing these families would ever want to do to their community that they either grew up in and have stayed in and were born here, or they moved here because of the community, the last thing they would want to do was to inflict any financial hardship on their friends and neighbors in this community. Their friends and neighbors didn't let them down. So the opportunity to work with the city, and of course, this was one ray of sunshine in a healing process. And over the course of over a year, we have worked with city attorneys who approached us. The city has engaged a gentleman by the name of Lee Taft on a very unusual but also beautiful process called restorative justice. What is restorative justice? Restorative justice is the type of justice or remedy that does not involve money, but it involves something effectively that demonstrates compassion and respect to those that have been harmed. It's a way for a city like Uvalde to make peace, to extend an open hand, a hug to these families when they can't simply express that for money, through monetary compensation. And that's exactly what the city did, and they've worked hard at it, and we applaud their efforts. particularly those of Clarissa Rodriguez, their remarkable attorney, who has spent, it seems like she has more than 24 hours a day, and that's just spent with us on this very challenging process. These families, the city asked these families to meet with this gentleman named Mr. Taft, where they expressed what they were looking for. What would make them feel good? What would make them feel heard and listened to? What would make them feel that their losses were in some way recognized in a valuable way? Valuable not in terms of dollars and cents, but in terms of gestures or efforts. That's restorative justice. And I'd also like to, by the way, commend Bo Joseph, who was also involved in this process from the TML, who was very gracious. So the restorative justice part of this resolution with the city is critically important. And you'll hear that these are, some of these may strike you as very modest. And I want to say it's the thought that counts, but there was so much effort that went into this. So first of all, the families do not want to have what happened to them have happened to any other member of this community, or any community in the state of Texas, or any community in the country, as much as they can do anything about it. That's why they are standing here, not because they want to, but because they feel this is the right thing to do, fighting in the name of their children and for the rest of us. And so you'll hear that the restorative justice process has led to things that don't just benefit them, but even more benefit the community. Some of the policy changes that were involved in the restorative justice project include the implementation of a new fitness for duty standard for Uvalde police officers to be developed in coordination with the United States Department of Justice's Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services. Another negotiated part of the restorative justice process was a commitment from the Uvalde Police Department to provide enhanced training for current and future officers. A third part of the police improvements that would be part of the restorative justice initiative between the city and the families led to an agreement to coordinate with the families concerning the public safety risk and burden on police due to the prevalence of gun violence. Listen to what I just said, the burden on police. So when you think of restorative, these families have taken steps, aggrieved by police failure to do their job, to relieve the burden on police due to the prevalence of gun violence. I could not be more proud of them for that. And it's just so remarkable in the midst of their grief. City of Uvalde also committed to things that are meaningful. Establishing May 24th as an annual day of remembrance. Building a memorial and funding a memorial on the plaza and coordinating with the families. Continuing to support and further supporting mental health services for the families and the survivors in the greater Uvalde community, and continuing to work with third-party entities to bring new developments for children and in Uvalde. You know, while I have the microphone, if there is anybody listening or watching that wants to help this community and provide mental health services and some of the massive amount of resources that these families in this community needs, just Google me. Also, if there's a architect or who are the people who make structure? Who build? The people who build statues. What do you call those people? Sculptors? Who would build a memorial? An architect, or? I want one of those people too. Is that right? Well, I think it should, don't you think this should be like an audition? They should have to supply their schematics. Somebody should want to build a memorial here in Uvalde for these people. We'll take any applicants who wants to do that pro bono, because again, there's not enough money in this city. That even trying to honor mass shooting families and those affected by that in a city like Uvalde, and let's face it, most cities and townships in America, you can't do that effectively because there's not enough money. There are other parts to this, and this is restorative justice, and that has to do with things that you never think about. You know, when you have kids and you watch your kids grow up, and one thing you never ever could possibly think about is that one day you might have to tender to their grave sites, right? You would never imagine that would be some part of being a parent, of tendering to their grave sites. And so part of this restorative justice initiative is simply maintaining regular maintenance of the Hillcrest Memorial Cemetery where these children are buried. Creating 2 additional at-large positions on the Cemetery Advisory Board to be filled by members of these families. Reimbursing the families for the cost of repairing ornamentation at the victims' grave sites, which the families had previously paid for themselves from donated gravesite funds which the city holds. So there was such a tremendous outpouring from the greater community, from members, citizens of the state of Texas, and from citizens and all over the country. And there were funds that were put in by one gentleman for the cemetery, so that these children's grave sites could be kept up and in a way that was meaningful to the families. And that there was a little bit of let's call it a miscommunication about those funds, and they resolved that. And then continuing to provide updated accounts of all donations the city has received in connection with Robb Elementary shooting and the spending of such funds. This is very much like Sandy Hook and other communities, the outpouring of support from the country. We've all seen it. Money comes in, teddy bears come in, cards come in, but people of goodwill just want to help, right, in the immediate aftermath. Of course, that fades over time pretty quickly, but then it presents these problems when you have to divide the money in the city, and that's another division that can affect the harmony of a community. Lastly, I just want to, about the resettlement part of this, I just want to say that the monetary part of the deal is, if you recall, that the monetary part of the deal is that it's really in addition to, you think about it as something on the list. It's in addition to the impactful and long-lasting steps that I've outlined. The city of Uvalde has agreed to pay its insurance of $2 million, which is all that there was. The families did not want to, again, just to be clear, these families could have pursued a lawsuit against the city, and there's certainly grounds for a lawsuit. Let's face it, sadly, we all saw what we saw. No, there's not a single person in this room or watching, or even, in town, in any government, or anybody who knows anything about this case and the response knows that it was an inexcusable failure at the end of the day. There's nothing we can do about it now. But instead of suing the city and jeopardizing the finances of anybody, families have accepted there's simply the insurance doesn't affect anybody. This is on the settlement end of things, and I should just mention that obviously a case this complicated with so many parts to it, we've been talking a lot about the after part effectively. What happens in the response, right? We're all talking about the response. That focus accepts that the shooting happened, and that's just a small part of what you look into when you think about what the causes are. So this is simply highlighting that we've settled with the city. There will be lawsuits forthcoming, most immediately against the state of Texas, which has done nothing at all but burden this town before the shooting by not giving them the resources they need, prevented these families from getting the information they need, and then blaming this city as if they didn't have, how many police officers there? 98? As if they had nothing to do, as if they didn't know how to shoot somebody, as if they weren't heavily armed and the most well-trained. Blame the least well-trained, least resourced, and least equipped officers for a problem you helped to create. So yes, we are suing the state of Texas. And we're also suing, down the line, we'll be suing the federal government, also heavily trained, equipped. You had over 150 some odd federal officers there who also were there and stood around until one or more breached the room at 77 minutes. Sure, that was a heroic act. It was a heroic act 77 minutes late. But this day is really a day to allow these families to heal and tell the community of Uvalde that they love you, they love living here, and they want to stay here. They want to stay here, and they need you. And when you see them on the street, if you pass them on the street, you know, you don't have to look away. Even if you wear a badge, you need each other here, because that's what mass shootings do to a town. Thank you. At this point,
hello, my name is Javier Cáceres, father of Jackie Cáceres. On the way over here, I saw the sticker, which I see everywhere, is Uvalde Strong. If that was the case, this room should be filled and then some, showing their support. It's been an unbearable 2 years. We all know who took our children's lives, but there was an obvious systemic failure out there on May 24th. The whole world saw that. No amount of money is worth our lives of our children. Justice and accountability has always been my main concern. We've been let down so many times. The time has come to do the right thing. Thank you.
We'll do a few questions on that minute.
yeah. So yeah, I didn't. Yes, of course. Yeah, the school board will be named. You mean the UCISD? Yeah.
Let's go. Sorry, down the road this way in no particular order.
Can you just clarify one more time for all of us here the list of who you plan on suing next? I think you sort of mentioned a couple of them.
Well, the immediate case will be the state of Texas and the UCISD. Because of quirky legal rules, we won't be naming the government until until later.
When you say you're suing the state of Texas, is that the state of Texas and individual officers?
Sorry, I mean, it's probably more, when I say state of Texas, I'm really speaking of individual officers. That's how, did you go to law school? That's a pretty good question. That's how it's done. So it's correct. I should be saying the individuals.
The state's lawyers have already, there have been lawsuits naming Texas DPS and the Rangers, and the state has responded, the Attorney General has responded saying, calling it a frivolous lawsuit.
There you go.
Have you guys had any talks with the state at all before?
No. Do you think that, let's put it this way, the state of Texas, unlike the city picked up the phone, reached out. But these families are members not just of the city, but they're citizens also of the great state of Texas. And no, we haven't heard from them.
Back corner.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Ruben. I'm the father of Lower Torres, and I'm going to call her inside that classroom. You mentioned in your statement that the city said they simply don't have any money, correct? That's why y'all are settling? They simply just don't have the funds. Yes or no?
No, that's not what I meant to say. I mean, the city doesn't have, let's put it this way, is there anybody in this room who thinks that a single life would be worth $2 million? No, of course not. I mean, lives are priceless. So limitations, unless you, yes, sir, there are limitations.
Well, that's a question. I guess it would be for the city. I mean, if they're limited, which, myself, I understand as well from the being for this community, have they considered getting rid of those officers? I mean, I know we're way past that, but I mean, that was a huge possibility where they could get rid of those officers and save funds that way. That would be a lot of funds that they'd be saved to retire some of those officers for the remainder of their lifetime.
I think what I've heard. By the way, I'm the lawyer. I didn't lose children there, and all I can do is be an ambassador of what I've been hearing. And I think there's just a tremendous amount of anger at the city for keeping these people on their payroll, if not simply for just demoting some of them. And that is remember I said this is a tale of two cities. That is still something that these families find inexcusable. And that is the real accountability that is still being lost on this process.
In the front here.
This is mentioned as the DOJ report played a big role in being able to push forward this settlement at these points. Was that the catalyst for getting the talks finally settled, or was there already building now kind of a level?
The question is whether the DOJ played a significant role or any role in these talks. And no, our process, the process that the city brought to us was underway well before then. In fact, and the DOJ report, although one could criticize, like me, the fact that they spent 500 and some odd pages and really came up with just a list of things that a city could do better to respond, and not a single page on why the shooting happened in the first place. It did help to understand the process better. They spent millions of dollars on that investigation. Another burden of a shooting, the costs to law enforcement after the case, and the government and state and local government. So it was helpful in helping us have a better understanding. And the families really appreciated the way in which that was shared with them. It was very transparent.
Can you explain further how you arrived at that settlement figure? Is it $4 million between the city and the county?
Well, the county settlement is we're still being worked on some of the details, but it's simply a matter of limitations of insurance and the families, again, not wanting to take money from the city more beyond it's plain and simple. These families are sort of remarkable, despite all their losses, in their willingness to accept that and and make peace on the lawsuit end of things with the city.
Or two more.
Congress's plans?
Placa.
No, not PLACA. Are you talking about qualified immunity? Which there's a lot of immunities. So I think you're talking about the immunity that protects governments from being sued from conduct by law enforcement, the qualified immunity, because there's also immunities that try to protect gun companies and other immunities, but qualified immunity it's just a detail that is going to be fought out in court, and we feel strongly we can beat it. Qualified immunity is an exceptionally strong immunity. So in other words, law enforcement is protected even from some very bad misconduct at times. But we think that this situation where kids, after all, are required to lock down in their classrooms, their freedom is constrained. So in this situation, we feel like qualified immunity is not applicable.
Last question over here. Okay.
Sir, I know you talked about these officers not being able to handle this one team with the gun.
Sure.
Are you planning, and you said that there's more to come, are you planning to go in after those gun manufacturers? Are you planning to going after those, I guess, those people who made those weapons?
Yeah, I can't comment on what's happening after today. This is just a moment to really explain the resolution with the city. There has been, and appropriately so, such a focus on law enforcement, and I think it is important to remember that that they're the end of the road. That this is a road that is well along before they get there. And yeah, thank you.
Excuse me, I got a question. How come, if the sheriff's department has never been mentioned through any of this, he was only 3 minutes away from the shooting, and he didn't even arrive for 20 minutes after, but nobody's going after him. And why is our
yeah, that's not part. That's not. Thank you, sir. I'm sure it's a valid question, but that's not part of what we're addressing today.
Thanks, everybody. Let's go.
So what you just heard was a news conference that we heard about earlier this morning. We were not told what it was about until they began speaking, and now we know the 19 families in the Uvalde school shooting have received $2 million in a settlement from the city of Uvalde. Just a small settlement because they didn't want to ask more than what the city already had in its insurance policy.
Yeah, that was insurance money that the city and the families worked with the cities to work out this settlement because the families felt like they did not want to take anything away from other residents, friends, neighbors who live in that city because they had nothing to do with the shooting a couple of years ago. Matter of fact, we are just 2 days away from the anniversary of that shooting. So they've settled with the city, but now there are more lawsuits to come, and their lawyer, his name is Josh Kaufkraft. Matter of fact, he represented folks from the Sandy Hook school shooting, so that's why they hired him, because he's got experience with these situations. He said the next lawsuit will be against 92 individual officers. It will also there will also be lawsuits against the Uvalde School District, several of the employees, including then Robb Elementary School Principal Mandy Gutierrez, and then Chief Pedro Pete Arredondo, who was the chief at the time of that shooting.
That big lawsuit that they announced today against those 92 officers, those are state police officers. So the lawsuit against DPS officers, there were about 92 of them who responded to that shooting. Basically, what the attorney is saying is that the state contended that the 376 local officers on site didn't do their jobs well, but that the state did. And obviously they have a problem with that. They say the state blamed the city, not themselves. So now they're going after those officers who were there, who according to this lawyer, were better trained, had better equipment, and certainly could have handled the situation a lot better. They also later on are already planning on suing the federal government and the federal officers who were also on the scene there. So this is just the beginning of, assumed to be a lot of lawfare that's going to be going on between those 19 families. I also want to note that, David, that in addition to those 19 families, according to this news release that was sent out this morning, Josh Koshkoff is saying that more legal actions are going to be taken today by more families who were affected, not necessarily those who were victims directly of the shooting itself. So it looks as though a number of attorneys are collaborating with this team. They're going to add more families and file more lawsuits as well.
It wasn't just the $2 million in that settlement, though. The city is required to do some upgrading of their preparation for their officers. They are required to start their officers in some fitness for duty training. They're also required that these officers have a commitment to the Uvalde Department to provide enhanced training for current and future officers, and an agreement to coordinate with families concerning the public safety risk and burden on police due to prevalence of gun violence. So all those are included in this lawsuit that the city now has to do with their police department. And a couple of things I found very interesting is now they want somebody to care for the grave sites of these victims, because the families have been having to pay out of their own pocket for the care of the grave sites. So they want somebody to care for these grave sites, and then they want to reimburse the families where their loved ones are buried, and they have to care for these grave sites so they can. And they also want to build a memorial. And that was another discussion that they had of who would do it, and did you get a sculptor? Did you get, who would build the memorial? But they also want the city or some outside entity. Actually, it's that outside entity that would do it for pro bono to come in and build a memorial to the victims.
So in 2 days, it'll be the 2-year anniversary, and what they would like to do is they want to establish a day of remembrance on May 24th. Every year, have that be the day where those victims and the whole city unites and the world remembers what happened there. They're going to create a committee that is going to design a permanent memorial right there in the middle of town at the plaza. And probably the least talked about, but the most important component of this settlement is that they're going to continue to provide mental health care and physical care for the survivors and the families and of the greater Uvalde community who have been affected by this horrific shooting. They have a lot of injuries inside and out that still need to be addressed.
We did hear from one family member. Jackie Cassara's father was speaking in very short but very emotional. He said it's been an unbearable 2 years. He also said we have been let down, and he said the time has come to do the right thing.
Okay, so once again, a $2 million settlement from the city of Uvalde's insurance company, but no further action against the city of Uvalde, which the families, through their attorneys, say did the right thing. They came forward. They asked what they could do to help these families. They also agreed to a package called restorative justice, a way to make peace and show support for the families. But the job is not over. Now they're going to go after all the other people who were there on the scene who might have been better equipped and trained to handle the response correctly, which we can all at this point agree was not handled well.
That includes individual police officers and individuals associated with the Uvalde School District, and I think they will even stretch that out into the county where Uvalde lies. So once again, just the major announcement today is the settlement between the insurance company of the city and the victims' families of that Robb Elementary School shooting almost 2 years ago.
So we will continue to follow this story. We have a reporter in Uvalde getting reaction to the settlement. We'll have more on that coming up today at 5 and 6. In the meantime, we'll take a break and we'll be right back.
For sensitive respiratory groups range. For most of us, the general public, not a lot of issues out there, but for a few hours for those with those unusually sensitive respiratory issues, could see a few issues out there with some of that haze. Again, for most of us, really the big thing we'll be looking at is more vibrant sunrises and sunsets. And the heat, 97 degrees is going to be the forecast high temperature later on this afternoon, with more sunshine taking back over. We will monitor for an isolated storm or two, especially out west near the Rio Grande and across portions of the hill country later on this evening, with thermometers gradually falling through the 80s after the sun goes down. Out west, Sabinal, Uvalde, and especially for places like Del Rio, Rio, Eagle Pass. Triple digits expected later on today. The average high in the upper 80s. So we're at least 10 degrees above that. When you factor in all of the moisture in place, you can see those feels like temperatures will be in the triple digits later on this afternoon. And that will be a common theme. You can see temperatures, actual air temperatures, actually getting a little bit hotter into Memorial Day weekend. 100 degrees currently the forecast high on Sunday with plenty of sunshine. It's possible we see a weak boundary move through on Memorial Day, just an isolated 20% chance for a storm late. We'll be right back.